Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome to the first video. First of all, I really want to start my channel by giving information about the homework that you are supposed to do while you're preparing to learn a second language, or you're taking a formal examination like IELTS. So today's video will be covering, like some sort of information about how to do homework effectively in terms of skills like listening, reading, speaking and writing. And I'll also, make some effort to give some information about how to deal with your grammar and vocabulary. So, this is just, first of all, I need to warn you that this is only just personal approach, not statistical data or like someone else's bias. It's just my own way of explaining so that it will be easier for you to do. First of all, I need you to divide homework into some, subgroups so that you know which one, how to deal with which one. First of all, the first type, which I would like to call like input, it would include listening, reading, vocabulary, and grammar. And why did I name them like input? Because you need to take as much information as possible. So when I'm talking about this type of homework, I'm talking about active listening and reading, like different scientific materials and passages, exposing yourself to the English atmosphere as much as possible. And when it comes to vocabulary, this just normally refers to learning words and collocation, idioms, and etc. And grammar rules that we have already familiarized with. And there is the output. The second type, there is a little difference because it's not about what you learn, it's about what you can show to the other person or the individual that is examining you. So first of all, for me, like output skills would include speaking and writing for the beginning, because they're not about what you know, they're about how much you can use of that knowledge. So if our first homework was about reading or listening and like learning stuff, this one is more about practical preparation. So it means that you need to speak as much as possible, just forget about being shy or like introvert, and hesitant to speak out in front of public, or never to base your writing skills on theory, because it's never gonna turn out like you expected. No matter how much knowledge you have about writing, it's never gonna be easy unless you start writing. And vocabulary and grammar, why are they also mentioned here? Because they're not just learned to be know, because that's not like active vocabulary or grammar rule. They're just passive. They are in some parts of your brain. When you see the word, you can just recognize and get the meaning at least, unless you don't forget. But if you want to add them to the output, which means to your speaking and writing, you would have to use on a regular basis, and you would have to use those words. That requires training, and that means varying your language in terms of vocabulary and grammar. Every time try to use like synonyms, antonyms, and like for example, for me, like learning word is not a problem, because in one set I can go as much as like 200, 300 words, but when it comes to using, if I set the number a little bit higher than 20, I'm never gonna be able to use them. So for example, just on a daily basis, try to get 10 or 15 words and use them from time to time, and it doesn't matter whether they're appropriate in your speech or not. Just unless you become fully aware of the meaning, you need to just start using them. Otherwise there's no point in learning so many words and structures. Now these two are the major types of homework for me, because the examinations have something in common, which is they all test your level of English. They don't test your level of I don't know, your strategies or your understanding of some certain testing system. So practicing is in the later position. We often do some listening practices from Cambridge books and etc., or reading with others. But the point is, my own teacher suggested practicing only twice a week, not too frequent, because if you don't allow yourself some time to improve, you're not gonna see the real improvement. To be something like you will be filling the it's like, let's just imagine a well. You'll be just putting the bucket in the well to get some water, before the well is full. It's like you'll be trying so much to do something, but actually you'll be getting nothing in the first place. So practicing must not be too frequent. Besides, they're not just to solve and find out how many you can find. Practicing skills is really in its own literal meaning. Practicing means practicing the skills that you have learned in terms of listening. For example, later I'll talk about what to pay attention to listening. When you're listening, or what things to consider while you're reading. But after you've learned something, it's really important and even paramount to put them in use. For example, you have some theory or some basic knowledge, and it's time to check that. Especially have more frequent real IELTS speaking mock tests, and start to write on a daily basis. Now, and the last part, as you can see, is a revision, because as Russian people say, revision is the mother of learning. But my personal approach is reading is the father of learning. So let's remember those two things. Even as I'm a teacher, I normally go through the things which I've learned over and over again with my students, so I don't have a problem with remembering things. But as a learner or as a student, you would have to go through this difficulty, because during the process you'll be losing as much as you're gaining, because memory works like that for a human brain. In order to take some information must be deleted or forgotten. But the correct way to deal with it is to every now and then just try to revise all the grammar you've learned and some vocabularies, and also some lessons that you've learned. Because, for example, in IELTS lessons, every lesson is just taught once, just a single time. For example, let's just talk about true, false, not given. I normally teach it to my students only once, but if they don't revise, even after they've learned and cracked all the IELTS skills and testing skills, they will have problems. They'll be still making one or two mistakes, at least in some type of question. So that is time to revise what I've taught, and like what kind of grammar structures you've learned, and what words like you've known that you have forgotten. Otherwise, it's gonna be rather challenging for yourself. So make sure you at least once a month try to revise whatever you've learned. Now, as I've said, the most important homework, to my own eye, this is my own, like individual point of view, but it's been approved and agreed by different scholars, and there is some statistical evidence that you can look up on the internet, that reading is like the most important process while you're learning a language, which is also suggested by my like senior teachers while I was studying in education centers back in like 2015, 16. So the thing is, I really see reading as the basis for my success, and this is the major like contributor. So let's talk about how to read. So as I said, it's more important to read an actual like passage or article rather than solving practice. So it doesn't matter which one you're doing, but in either way, what kind of things do you need to pay attention while you're reading? First of all, whenever you take a passage, just start reading and try to realize what the main idea is, because even if it's like 20 or like one, like even up to 100 pages of something, it will have only single main idea. And if you get that, it's like the point that they are talking about, the point that they want to cover. It's like 70% of the meaning. You will understand like without any problem. And all the time try to differentiate between main idea and supporting examples, which are the next thing that you need to consider, because in IELTS mostly questions can be dealt with as long as you know the idea. So but there are like certain questions that require you to know like some supportive sentences and some instances that are provided within the text. So so that's an important thing to tell them apart. Otherwise you'll be really confused, and like you'll be feeling like yourself in a jungle, like looking for something that you don't know, like I don't know. Then next thing that you need to pay attention is vocabulary. And I think that reading has unlimited access to vocabulary, because no matter how many words I've learned so far, even in my like 8 years of teaching career, there is still like some word that's new to me in like reading like passages, at least 5 all the time. And that's interesting because the English language has broad vocabulary. They say active words in the language is between 250 and 300,000, but the overall number of words in English is 10 times as much as Uzbek language, which would be something like 2.5 million. So that's a big deal, because that means if you don't learn the vocabulary all the time, you'll be I don't know, like having you'll be interfered by this factor. Another important thing about vocabulary is like the more you know, the more you look through, and the more you I don't know, like face that word in the text, you will know and remember its meaning. So it may at least become your passive memory. And people say that even that famous writer Churchill used to know like 60,000 words in English. So let's just try to have at least half that. And Last but not the least, is to referring to other things that are not within the text. They are normally displayed in the like a layout. Like the first thing you would come across while you start, the title is actually an important thing that can give you an idea of the thing that is coming. So title will have much to do with the main idea, and if you can understand the main idea and title together and how they are relevant to each other, the what do we say, passage is actually already understood by you, no matter what the supporting examples are provided. And the next thing, visuals and other details that are provided apart from the text are really important, because normally it's reading is like what do we say, directed at ordinary users of the language, so typical people and that are using everyday language. So they would have some difficulty in some scientific terms. That is why it would be important to show them clearly what something means by using some graphs and visuals. Otherwise it would be difficult. So whenever you're reading, please pay attention to charts and like graphs, maps, and like definitions of the words or anything additional that is provided. It will help you understand things more clearly. Next, so these are like some personal tips that most people don't what do we say, maybe don't know, maybe they are ignorant of this thing, maybe they just don't pay so much attention. But while you're reading, please make good use of predicting meaning of words, because as I've said, like the number of words that you can learn is limited, but the number of words in English is not limited, because it's the global language, and like it takes words from other different languages every day, and conceptions are discovered or created and adapted to the language on a regular basis. So predicting the actual meaning is, according to the context of a word, is an important skill that you have to master, because otherwise like you will be just dependent on dictionaries, which is not a good thing, because in no exam are you provided with a certain dictionary. Besides, it was for my benefit that while I was studying at 5th level, no, 4th level, I was supposed to read the health book, which had over 600 pages, roughly 650, and we were given the book for 3 months. But maybe I was lazy. Like I read the first beginning 100 pages and feeling like that was an easy read, so just stopped reading for a while. But I had only 2 weeks before the exam, because it was compulsory to pass from the book in order to enter the exam to the 5th level. So I had to read all that 650 pages in just a couple of weeks. So I had no other choice but to predict the meaning of words, because I didn't literally have time to check up. So it really helped, because after you've experted the skill, it's like you can get any kind of what do we say, a resource from any broad topic. Then this is not going to be difficult for you to understand the meaning, because you don't need the words to understand the meaning in actual case. Besides, please, now I need you guys to pay attention. Punctuation is a thing that normally that people ignore. but they must be aware that like there is a certain reason why they are used. So as long as you know how or when or like for what purpose they are used, this makes things much more clear. Things really will start making more sense. So for example, just why is hyphen used? It can be used, to separate the words. Why is dash used? Dash can be used like when like the meaning of the first sentence contradicts the meaning of the upcoming sentence, or clauses as we call them. Or like they can be used to define the meaning that has been explained in the former sentence. Or like they can also be used just to give extra information. So if you don't know these three usages of these punctuation symbols, it will be difficult for you to figure out why, like what they want to say actually with those two sentences, which would seem like irrelevant to you if you didn't know the usage of the exact punctuation. And another important thing is the correct speed of reading, because you cannot actually slow read, because in any kind of exam you will be given limited time to deal with the task. For example, in IELTS, like 40 questions in 1 hour, just, no extra time provided for copying answers and blah blah. But in SAT you have to deal with 55 questions in 50 minutes, and so things are really unless they are as long as there is the time limit, like you have to hurry. But that doesn't mean like you can just what do we say just pace up your speed while you're reading, because this guarantees you that you'll get nothing. So that's why the perfect choice is to find out your first of all, while trying to improve your speed of reading, your task is supposed to be to discover the balance between the slow and the fast paces, so that you will find the exact speed that you need to understand, as well as to save time. Alright, our final thing about reading is analyzing details individually. So while you're reading, the important thing to do, as far as I can suggest, is to ask yourself questions. For example, after you read, in 2016, I normally ask myself a question. This is when it happened. Or like, if I read something about the purpose, I will ask like why, and start to answer it, or provide some logical explanations. So this analysis is an important step to get the other 20%, which we were not getting, with the main idea, details, and other things. So once you start actually doing the thing, you'll start getting things at least the 95%. Now, sorry, I think we went back. Here. Now it's time to talk about listening. The most important thing that I need to tell first and foremost is that don't just watch. This is, I cannot say that watching doesn't help, but this is what other most users are busy with, kind of wasting their time and effort to improve their listening while just trying to watch a movie, or like listen to songs, and watch some videos on YouTube. So this is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a bad thing when you consider the fact that your main focus is not listening. It would be, for example, the events, the plot of the movie that you're watching, or it would be the, I don't know, like some characters that may happen to be beautiful and appealing to you. So that is why watching is not a good choice to like have an immense amount of improvement. So while you're listening, just please try to listen. So your main task must be to listen attentively. Next, that listening attentively would require you to understand word by word. Unless you do, just start skipping back and like listening over and over and over again until you understand even any single mistake that you couldn't understand. For example, while I was preparing for IELTS for the first time, there was a video which I really liked, but there was a part when the woman knows her pitch and like pronounce the word a little bit differently than usual. So I didn't understand the word. So like just 2 seconds of this word, like I repeated over and over. I spent 2 hours sitting. I still didn't want to give up because like when you understand by yourself, this is going to give you the real improvement. And finally, like I got the word. At least try different spellings on dictionaries and pay attention to the words, how they are pronounced, and it will also give you a useful skill of writing, being able to write words that you don't know, which most people cannot. So this is an important step. Just do not even skip a preposition or an article. Just find it out. Next, just while you're listening, after you've like mastered some certain skills or videos, it's time to challenge yourself. Try something more difficult, more challenging, faster, or like with a different accent. Try something new, because otherwise you'll be just stuck with what you already have. So but you must always keep in mind that there is always a room for improvement. Just find something that you would find difficult, and with difficulty comes gain, as we say. So another thing, now this is to speak in more detail, to talk about listening. If you've paid attention so far, I've used different types of pausing, maybe like appropriate, maybe not, but while you're listening, make sure you like understand why and when like people start like stopping, like, or have at least quick pauses during their speech, because this is a natural event that happens in any kind of language. So if you want to sound really natural, you need to know when to stop. Because as the great Einstein said, like pausing can be as much powerful as the nuclear bombs or reactors, whatever. The next thing is pronunciation. So in order to get the real, not real, but the correct way of pronouncing a word, you must listen to a real native speaker, because there is no way you can learn it from a, second language user, or somebody who's learning the language as a foreign language, because we are not born with the language. That's a fact, so we cannot ignore that. But like those people, who have their, mother tongue, as we call it, in English they would know how to pronounce the word instinctive. I don't know, like as an instinct. So you would learn better from them. Besides, words are not always pronounced in the same way. They would be pronounced differently in different circumstances, and like for example individually differently, but within the sentence much more differently. So you need to learn how the words are pronounced. And just like reading, you need to pay attention to the speed of the speech, because you will learn how to use the correct speed. Because when you're talking about something important, you can just speak really fast. But if you have to make a point, you need to slow down. And in order to realize and correctly make use of it, you need to see a real native speaker use different speed in different like circumstances. Alright, the next thing in our list is the accent. Of course, it has to be mentioned, because this might be a problem for many users, because English itself has I can say even over thousands of accents, because it is a fact that London city itself has 63 types of pronouncing words, so which would be like weird. Although they're all similar to each other, they slightly differ. So unless at least once you've tried to understand the accent, it will be impossible for you to understand even a basic word that you already know. So the next tone for me is like emotions, because people use different tones when they, for example, when they're ordering, or when they're explaining something, or apologizing for something that they've done, or many other things. That is why I pay close attention to tone, and all these can be concluded by saying that when you start paying attention to these factors, you will learn how English intonation is used. Like you will really start, like understanding things much more clearly in their own meaning, and you will know when somebody is being sarcastic, or like they're just, saying it for fun. Besides, it will definitely help you to improve your own speaking abilities, so that's an important thing to consider. So please try to follow as you were suggested. And 3 last tips. Please do not write, because that can be your enemy. I'm literally meaning it, because once you start understanding word by word only by listening, you can have like a significant amount of improvement, while the enhancing would be rather much trivial or mere and insignificant when you just start writing and like reading the thing, because listening is just by its name called listening, not writing or reading. And just start trying to imitate. So find your idol, find what you like, and start doing things like they do, because they are like real users. They know how things work around there. And finally, you should learn words. Yeah, listening is also the best way, one of the best way of learning words, because you can instantly put them in your speech. For example, like for many people who cannot use some expression, if they hear another person use the expression, they will get it at once or twice, and they'll start using by themselves. So while you're listening, try to learn words as well. Now, finally, about our grammar and vocabulary, let me read aloud. So grammar rules are important to be more aware of the language, so you know what I mean. And vocabulary can either work for or against you. So if you don't know, like, it is for your own, like, drawback. Uh-huh. And but how do we need to deal with that? First of all, the main point is understanding, because if you don't want to be a teacher, it's not that much important to know the exact rule word by word. The main purpose is to understand the core meaning, so that you can refer to it whenever you need. And the next more important task is to make up examples, because otherwise there is no need for any kind of rule or like vocabulary to learn. Just you will forget in a day or two if you don't try to use them. And the best way to do it is to like have it's like having quality over quantity. So just get like 10 or 15 words, or like 3 to 5 grammar structures, and use them like every day, at least like 20, 50 times, so that you'll be like not hesitant to use them in any given context or situation. And like finally, like keep revising them, like like keep track of what you're doing, what you're learning in some kind of way. For example, you can keep a notebook, or you open your own, I don't know, like memory card or album, or like just try to revise them, so that like you will also feel the improvement, and you will see, for example, how things add up when you like work on them for a long term. Because otherwise you will not be motivated. You'll be like, oh, I'm just learning 15 words a day. But when you just learn 15 words a day for 20 days, that's like 300, whole 300 words. So once you see that, how many pages you've written, that will give you like some intrinsic motivation to see that, I've come this far. So just this also get like ensures that you're working a quality work. And finally, thanks for your time and like effort I don't know, and patience to understand and like listen to our some brief information about doing homework. The conclusion of the lesson is like, it's once you're doing homework, it's not about like what to do, how to do. It's more about what you can get for yourself. So the final lesson that I can tell is, it is any like individual based way. You always must find your own passion, so that you will keep doing things consistently. Otherwise, like if you just have a like quick break, you will slow down, and your English will just start plummeting. So find your own like desire. For example, if you are into listening, like do more listening. Also don't forget about others. Or if you like writing or like reading, just focus on this, and like start enhancing that side of yours, but still fulfill other responsibilities. That's all for today. Thank you for your attention. See you next time.